You know, I should have worn my Star Wars shirt.
Yeah, you should have.
Dang it. Oh well. Hey, what's good, guys? My name's Chris.
I'm Jody.
And we are talking about The Last Dance, episode
5 and 6.
Is it?
Yeah.
1 and 2, 3 and 4. Yes, 5 and 6. So if you've been keeping up with what we've done as far as our thoughts or the recap that we've been doing on The Last Dance, the first video, I was just a jumbled mess. The second video, I kind of had an outline of my thoughts. Third video, obviously, is this one. I do have another outline of my thoughts. There's way more topics, though, so I don't know if we'll be able to get to them. I did want to read off the topics just so that you guys know my thoughts first, just initially, like what stuck out to me while I was watching everything, but just in case we don't cover everything, I'm sorry. So first thing I got is 1998 All-Star Game. Second thing is Kobe. Third thing is Nike, aka shoes. Madison Square Garden and the Air Jordan 1. Dream Team and Isaiah. Friendly rivalry in practice. Tony Kukoc. To really be like Mike. And the media. And that's pretty much all I got. I did purposely leave off gambling. Maybe I should just start off with that. I don't think gambling is a bad thing. Do whatever the you want to do with your money. You know what I mean? It's that simple. It's not illegal. You have to be really reaching, you know what I mean? To be like, he's a gambler. Like, who cares?
I just figure as long as you have the money and you pay your debts, like...
it's his money. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
Do whatever you want with your money.
I definitely understood the breakdown of like $10,000 to him is $10 to you.
When a kid puts their change in those little ball machines and to see what you get, that's gambling. Who cares, man? I never cared about it. The same thing that I said initially in the first video that we did on this is very similar to how I feel now looking at this through two different lenses, where I remember what I thought and kind of felt watching these things unfold as they're happening, to then now seeing it like who I am today. And it's like some of it I feel very similar about, like the gambling thing, and then other things like I'm kind of like, man, this is crazy, you know? So it's like, it's so interesting to be able to reflect back on your thoughts. I don't know if everybody else is doing that, but that's what I feel. And then for some people like her, like it's your first experience really in this world, and it's a little weird. It's getting weirder, but like this was like the coolest thing yet. Like this one I did feel like they glossed over some of the stuff, like Tony Kukoc and stuff like that. Granted, there wasn't a lot to talk about, but like I just don't feel like he got the same kind of respect that Dennis and Phil and Scotty got.
At the same time, they focused on him for the purpose in that part of the story.
Correct.
Plus, editing is a pain in the butt. You cannot include everything.
Not everything fits, man. So what we saw like made it off the cutting room floor. So the first thing that I do want to talk about though is the 1998 All-Star Game. You did not watch basketball until you met me.
Yes.
But the All-Star weekend experience, and she knows this, I've gotten more loose about it because the All-Star Game is not as fun as back then. The last All-Star Game that I really loved watching was the last one Kobe was in. Although this last one for this year, the 2020 All-Star Game, that fourth quarter was amazing. I missed the competitiveness in the All-Star Game. It was so interesting to hear Jordan talk so much about that little Lakers boy, where I was like, wow. Like these old heads, nothing's changed.
Well, he seems to be like that with everybody.
Yes.
Like he definitely is like, oh, you're trying to take my place, or so-and-so likes you more. Like he's definitely like, I'm the man.
Yeah, watch this. I'm not done yet. You know what I mean? But like, it's definitely like people my age that grow up playing basketball or sports or something like that, you know this feeling of like, oh, that's the OG. You got to pay like respect to him or whatever. But there's something to be said about the young buck that comes in and is just like, well, I grew up watching, idolizing to the point to where I mimic everything you do. And I understand Kobe's philosophy of like, now you show me like in person, like I've been waiting my whole life for this. It's a competitive thing on both ends. And I miss that so much. It's not even funny. I love that they were able to talk to him before everything happened, because the stuff that he said in that documentary, I've never heard him say ever before. He's always given major respect to Michael, but he's never said those things, those words. He says straight up, without MJ, I have no rings. Because of what MJ did, that's me. You know what I mean? And I like that. That's paying respect to the past while owning up to the future and all that stuff, right? People in my era, which I hope that you guys agree if you're in my age range and stuff like that, is that kind of like, I don't want to call it disdain, but that level of like, why are you copying this fool, turned into, as I grew up with him, that was the rarest thing. Like we never had like really players that we grew up with. He was almost like a comic book character. Like how I gravitate towards Dick Grayson Robin, because this Robin has grown up literally with me over the years, where I connect with this guy, even though he's not real. Same thing with Kobe, where people my age, we grew up literally being like, this kid is my age, damn near. And he's in the NBA, the youngest all-star of all time. Jacking up threes, that's what we remember. That's what he was dogging on him for. Being like, yo, he's shooting himself out the gym. He doesn't let the game come to him. He's like trying to take everything. He's too aggressive, blah, blah, blah. That's an OG mindset. Like you have to earn your shit before you get it. And the young kids in there like, nah, I'm in here now. Like it's so interesting to be like I grew up watching him not just mimic Mike, but he added to that. He studied other people like Olajuwon, Hakeem. He had some of the greatest footwork ever. So he added things to his game, which is where I see the fair comparison about LeBron, where like, what does LeBron add to his game? Not much. He's physically capable to do almost anything. What does he need? Maybe, I don't know. He just doesn't need to yet. But there are players, and Mike, we've learned this through this documentary, or people like me that have been watching, we already knew this, but like Mike used to play one way, and then he got older and he started playing a different way. And some players are able to do that, some players aren't. Kobe kind of elevated himself as he got older. It was really rare. You see them plateau and like kind of like drift off and stuff, like a Vince Carter, you know what I mean? Where like he's still around. Any thoughts?
Not about that specific topic, but I will say the All-Star game, to focus on the guys there. And even if you want to go to the Dream Team, as a girl who knew jack squat about anything, this is how big those guys were, because I know all of those players and those names.
Without ever watching a game.
Yeah, so they marketed the heck out of those guys, and they all did really well for themselves.
That's the funniest thing. It wasn't marketing.
Well, I mean, they had the McDonald's deals and Wheaties boxes.
Yeah, but that was the marketing of those businesses trying to attach themselves to what was popular just inherently. It was wild. Now we move on. They briefly recapped the whole Nike deal, how he originally wanted to go to Adidas, how they originally pitched him over at Converse. What a fuck up that was. Oh my God. First off, Adidas is still in shambles, okay? They're still disorganized as a mother. No shots to Adidas, you guys know it's true. So that's a big what if, what could have been. But the Converse thing, where Converse is just like, you're never gonna be like these guys.
That
like word? Like, are you serious?
I hate to use the word cringy, but that Converse commercial was super, super cringy. I almost felt like I was watching a bunch of guys in the shower. They were like so close to each other, passing this shoe around.
That was a good example, that commercial, and all of these guys' personalities. That was a good commercial of like the contrast between what they showed on court versus what they were off court.
Yes.
Because on court, they're all beasts. Off court, they're like, f it, man, we're goofy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And MJ was different. He had swag, and he was just like, nah, man, like we can be friends and stuff off court, but do you want to play golf? Do you want to play cards? Do you want to flick a coin at the wall? Like, what were they doing? You know what I mean? Like, I was like, what is this? It was so wild to see the stark contrast, and that's why a lot of my generation gravitated towards MJ and stuff. And it was just really interesting that the whole Nike thing was literally what made that brand. Nike is not Nike today without MJ, period. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care how you try to explain it, whatever. They summed it up very quickly, saying that Nike was a track brand. They essentially were. They were selling sneakers out of the trunks of cars. If this guy didn't listen to his parents, I think that's another thing that is maybe getting like quickly brought up but then discarded, is MJ listened to his mom and dad a lot, even afterwards. Like if they said like, hey, this sounds like a good deal, you should do this, he was respectful enough to his parents to be like, okay.
Yeah.
And as parents, that don't happen too much anymore. Next topic, Madison Square Garden, the Air Jordan 1. Again, just like the All-Star game, I remember that game. This is before retros.
Yeah.
Okay, well, there was a 94 little stretch of retros, but that doesn't count. There were no retros. There were no reissues yet. Okay. It wasn't until, I think it was that following season.
So he pulled those shoes out from like
those
his
were
closet
Those were his
something?
1984s. He said it in the documentary and everything.
Well, he was relacing them like from...
That's how they came.
I understand that. So they looked like they were brand new to him that evening.
Yeah, it was a well-known fact back then that anything that came out, Jordan took 2 of.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, people were like, oh, I want to see Mike Bibby's closet. I want to see X person's closet. I want to see Michael Jordan's, because he's got 2 of everything. That includes samples, okay? So he's probably got stuff that none of us have ever seen before. He's been wearing a pair in the documentary that's just a 1 of 1 that nobody's seen before. And it has a 1 bottom, kind of a Stan Smith upper with that Wings logo on the heel. Like it encompasses most of the back section of the shoe. And everybody's like, what is this shoe? Jordan's got that nobody's ever seen. 2 of everything. The man knew before everybody else knew. So yeah, he took out 1984 pair, brand new. And everybody that doesn't know anything likes to be like, but they made his feet bleed. That's because they were like a size and a half too small. Man, his foot grew during the league.
Well, that was just dumb. Like, I understood what he was doing, but if your feet are in so much pain, I don't care if you're having a really great game.
Nope.
Go put some different shoes on.
You do not understand the power of 1, nostalgia. 2, look good, feel good, play good, okay? And those are the only 2 things that you need to know.
But he looked good and he did not feel good.
No, you look good, therefore you feel good, therefore you play good.
But he said he didn't feel good.
But he was having a good game, so he didn't want to take him off. That is the direct definition of look good, feel good, play good. I've been there many times, where you're like, hey, my feet hurt right now, my ankles are all f***ed up or whatever, all this yada, 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 but I'm getting buckets, so I'm sticking with these, and that's what's happening. So the next topic is the Dream Team and Isaiah Thomas.
This guy, I don't even know him. He seems
Are you talking about MJ or Isaiah?
Isaiah.
Okay.
He seems so nice in these more recent interviews.
Oh,
and
while
then,
he's retired and old, yeah.
Yeah, like, and sweet and like even-tempered and well-mannered, all that good stuff.
It's funny because that's him. On the court, he was a dick.
Yeah, and they showed like how he'd been having it out with like 3 or
All
4
of
other
them.
players,
All
but
of
the
them.
only one where like it was known very well was with MJ.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just like, why couldn't all of you guys been like, we don't want him?
It was really mostly Magic. Like John Sally has come out recently to talk in interviews, and he was just like, yeah, it was mostly Magic. Max was like, this little dude.
Well,
like,
then he should have said something.
I know, but Magic got the same image though. It's all marketing at that point. It's all branding, right? And like Magic is the guy with the eyes and smiles.
Whenever Magic smiles, I want to bing.
No, but that's how everybody see him.
Yeah.
And so you don't want him coming out like legit vocally hating on somebody, being like, that little guy.
Okay.
And I completely understand all sides. It's unfortunate that MJ got like the label of like it's his fault because he hates Isaiah.
But even now, as soon as his name comes up, his whole demeanor, you know when you don't like somebody?
I think it's so funny. Yeah, because I do the same thing.
I do too.
But like it's so funny to see Jordan, because this is something, again, look, from 2 different lenses. When I was a kid, you never saw this out of MJ, ever. He was just basketball Jordan. That's all it was. Greatness. You wanted to emulate everything. He didn't ever show you anything to be like, huh? You know what I mean?
Well, that was the whole thing. Like Mike, he was on this thing and he knew it.
Exactly. He did such a great job managing this. You can tell because they interviewed him during certain parts where he's like, yo, it was so disheartening for me to hear him say that if I had to redo all of this, would I? And he said no. And I was like, dude, but do you not understand how many people that you have affected?
I could see what he was saying though, just because, and we're nowhere near that stature, but I have watched you over the past 10 years just go into these like, I don't want to do this anymore. And so when he was giving his interview, we've been there. I've sat there and
I
been
know,
like,
but that's the thing though, is that looking up to someone like that, that's what pulls me back, being like, well, he didn't quit. Kobe didn't quit. You know, Shaq didn't quit. All these people didn't quit. So you know, and I don't have none of these problems, not on this scale. Similar problems, but nowhere near on that scale. I'm a complete, like, just, what the, you just shut up. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it feels like compared to what these guys have to go through. You know what I'm saying?
I was exhausted though. They just gave like, I don't even know if it was 2 minutes, but explaining from the time he leaves the hotel, this is what happens, this is what happens. And I'm just like, I'm tired. I want to lay down on the couch too.
No, I know. And that's the thing. So like, that's what I mean by is like, it was disheartening for me because he's still on that pedestal for me. I love seeing this side of him, the normal side, the human side. Yes. But it was disheartening to literally hear his voice say, I don't think I'd want to do this again, like if I had the option. Because that's the one thing, like if you were to ask me.
You'd do everything the same way?
Yeah, look at everything that we have, you know, like all of this is because of basketball, shoes, and YouTube. Like, I'm so grateful. And so like, that's the part where I'm kind of like, so you would really want to just be that poor kid from North Carolina? You know what I'm saying?
I didn't take it as that way. I took it more of as he would not have made it so that he had such a squeaky clean image. He probably would have let him be more like the
relaxed.
Detroit Piston type guys, like
Maybe.
more because
Yeah. No, I can see.
You could
I
have
can see that
both.
side. No, I can see that. That's something that I don't think about. But yeah, that's why there's two of us. For those of you guys wondering, okay.
I'm not just a pretty face
Yeah.
with these ridiculous buns for
Why is
Star
she-
Wars Day.
Yeah, why is she here? Why is she here? That's exactly why she's here. She's got a different perspective. It's literally that simple.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't even think about it like that. But it's still, that's my initial reaction was like, oh man, what?
I can see what you're saying though.
Because that's the thing, like I'll take you even with your flaws. I still want to be like Mike. But it's still mad funny that this motherfucker hates Isaiah Thomas. Like he hates Isaiah Thomas.
Everybody has that person. Even the most squeaky clean of all of us has that person where you're like, ugh.
And you have to understand where he's coming from, man. You went to work every day just trying to do your job, and then you had this one group of goons just laying you out. That's crazy. And the Dream Team was amazing. We've never seen... There was the Redeem Team. There's been a few really good teams, but I was telling her while this documentary is rolling, I think it was in between this 98 season where the NBA was celebrating 50 years. They did their 50 greatest players ever. I had the book and it had each player in it of the 50 greatest of all time at that time, up until that point. And I was telling her, I was like, yo, like the roster is full of all of them. Not all 50 obviously, but like every one of these players is in the top 50 of all time. There was not a bad guy on the team where you're like, what's he doing there? Every player. So the world got to really see what the NBA was about at that point. It was nuts.
Well, and you were explaining it to me as well that before then in the Olympics, we didn't send guys from the NBA.
A lot of times it was some of the young kids, a lot of the college kids and stuff like that. That was kind of like their first taste of professional basketball.
To which I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Like the
I
Olympics
always-
is supposed to be
No,
the
I-
best of the best.
I know, and I always thought it was weird, like as a youngster.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they had the Dream Team, I was like, man, this is going to be crazy. Keeping things in theme with the Dream Team, that friendly rivalry in practice. I mean, where they had literally like gone at each other. We're talking about Mike and Magic. Well, Mike took it out on the whole team, but like it was mostly Magic doing the talking. I think that is cool as shit. And that kind of like in-game mentality, again, I hate to like sound like a broken record, but it feels like it's missing. You know what I mean? Like I do feel like we get that with some players like Chris Paul and Stephen Curry. When they go at each other, they don't seem like that they're friends. Yet off court, they really actually are friends. But on court, I mean, especially with Chris Paul's going at this kid, doing a shimmy and trying to them and everything and all this stuff, and I'm just like, man, like I miss that. And Russell Westbrook to KD after KD left, same thing, where it's like, are they friends still or are they not friends still? Like, what is going on? This is crazy.
See, and I don't like any of that, and I talked about that last episode that we did, but I loved when they talked about they all got on the bus, they weren't talking at all, it was complete silence, and then I don't know who...
It was Magic.
He said something, and it like broke the ice and made them all friends again.
Yeah.
Even though they were, but like, I
There
don't
was some
like...
tension.
I don't like that kind of tension.
No,
I
but-
want fun.
That's why each of these guys elevated one another, and they're already great. So think about that. These are some of the greatest players, not just of all time, but literally of all time, and they're elevating one another just in practice.
Yeah. No, that's
Practice.
great. I don't know. I'm not a dude. Us girls, we can be catty and
No,
whatnot,
y'all are
but we're not
y'all
like
are catty.
mean to each other's faces like that. And so I just
And
can't
I think
imagine.
that's bull. To be perfectly clear, okay, if we're gonna just real quickly brief on that, these are crazy. The way that you guys are, hey girl, da 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 da, then I can't stand her. I'm like, wow, y'all are nuts. Cause I have friends, okay, like me and Benny. For example, me and Benny played on many league teams together. We've known each other since high school. Some days on court, we get along great. Some days we're at each other's throats. And the funnest games that we have are not when we're playing together, but when we're playing against each other. And it's because Benny kicks my ass and I kick Benny's ass. It's fun.
Well, as long as y'all can like laugh about it once you leave the court, then I'm all gravy.
And we do. But that's what I'm saying though, is that like you need somebody to constantly push you. Otherwise you just stay kind of stagnant. That's no fun. I hope that all these players that are watching this, not only are we all being reminded in our face just how good this guy was. I hope that these guys come back to the league being like, yo, I'm about to up everything. It just would be real fun to see that. We're gonna end up doing what the documentary did to Tony Kukoc. We're gonna gloss over him real quick. I love Tony Kukoc. I've always liked the guy. I thought that it was really up what those two did to him, but it was also really funny. I just gotta say, you could take it from there.
No, I already kind of said what I had to about him, was just that I felt bad for him because he didn't do anything wrong. It just so happens MJ found out that Jerry was basically in love with this guy and wanted to bring him in, and he was like, like, you need to pay attention to us. We're a team, so I'm gonna remind you why we're better than him.
It wasn't yeah, I know. It wasn't just that though, but it was the fact that Jerry Krause, he was like, this kid is gonna be the next Michael. That was what it was.
Well,
You know
that's
what
how
I mean?
I took it. I understood Jordan's side. I just felt really bad. They embarrassed him. And then the things that like Pippen said about him afterwards, I was just like, just stop.
What do you mean?
How like if he can't handle it here, like he doesn't deserve to be in the NBA.
Again, we're going back to these guys just elevated this kid's game.
Yeah.
They did him a favor. That's what what I'm saying.
Like it.
No,
It
but
makes
that's
me
what I'm saying.
uncomfortable.
You can roll this all the way back to the talk in the locker room of the All-Star game. This little Laker boy, okay? This is how they treated people back then.
Yeah. But he hadn't done anything to them personally, and
No.
so it was just.
But it's always personal. But yeah, Tony Kukoc is the man. Don't get anything twisted. Tony Kukoc, he was legit, man.
He seems happy and great with life right now, and obviously he went on to do great things, so it worked.
He has rings under his belt because of these two guys.
But to have that like be part of your history, like that sucks.
I don't think so. If you're gonna get your ass whooped by anyone, those two, bring it on. Like, what are you gonna say about that? What's your argument against that? Why did you get destroyed and demolished by two of the greatest players ever during that Dream Team season? And you'd be like, you just answered your own question. These two of the greatest players ever, they killed me.
Fair enough.
They kind of rolled into what it was like to be like Mike, to really be like Mike. There was the theme song, Sometimes I Dream.
The Gatorade song.
That he is me. Oh no, I'm gonna stop it at that. Like Mike. They really showcased what it was like to truly be like Mike, and it was, again, a little bit disheartening for me to hear that he was so kind of like mentally bogged down, where you can kind of understand. Actually, now that I really think about it, I really do understand, because I do the same thing. I do that. If you like bog me down mentally, I'll be like, F this shit. And I just won't even do it.
Well, plus, he was already so accomplished. We were talking about this in running, about how you constantly have to come up with different goals. He had already done.
Yeah, what you got left? They did the impossible. They got a three-peat. All the accolades, the scoring titles, the defensive titles, the gold medal. I mean, we're talking like he did everything. But to have all of those accolades and then have the media, which is our last topic, really
Always looking for that next hot topic.
That's the thing, man. When people start to get bored with, because the media is 10 times worse than what it was now, because now everyone's media, right? Everyone's got a YouTube channel talking shit about Brie Larson or Kathleen Kennedy or Disney bought Star Wars. Oh my God, Star Wars is ruined. And like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's so bad. And everybody does have a voice. Everybody should have a voice. It just sucks when the loudest ones are the ones really pissing on everything. And it can take the joy out of some. It has taken sometimes the joy out of sneakers, out of basketball, out of comic books, out of the love of nerd. It's always great to have somebody like a John Schnepp or whatever, where you're just like, hey guys, it's about your love of this, you know? And so it's nice that there are people like that. It's just really hard to find them and to listen to them when there's all this tweeting and that's not to be like a pun. It's like for real, like it's just constant, you know what I mean? And it's just like, man, again, you're so accomplished, you're so positive about everything all the time. And then they try to pull something like gambling where you're like, dude, what?
I will say that interview he gave with...
That was really bad.
With
it was
the
bad.
sunglasses, even before he had mentioned it, I was like, what is he doing?
He looked like Ray Charles out there, man. Like, he really did. It was bad.
Yeah.
Ahmad Rashad, for one, he's MJ's friend, so like he should have been like, let's not do this right now. You know what I mean? But the journalist in him or the media personality in him is just like, but you know what? Yeah, this is gonna be views. There's no line anymore, and it's so bad. People will build you up only to tear you down. I've had people that have told me so many times, I love what you do, I'm a big fan, blah, 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 blah. And those same people all of a sudden are like, well, f you. I'm just like, what did I even do, bro? It's super wild, but I get it. And it sucks. Is there anything that you'd like to add about anything that you saw in this documentary on episodes, what are we on, 5 and 6?
Yes, 5 and 6. I will say that, and I said this last week, was the documentary...
What? The what? What was that?
No, never mind.
You gotta put that in there. You better edit that I know, because you put in my bloopers all the time. That is your blooper.
This series, MJ...
Can you just say documentary one time? Just one
I
time.
can't say it.
Oh, man. Sorry.
This series, MJ had said, I'm afraid people aren't going to like me after this. And if anything, because I'm always like, Jordan.
Oh, she's just, I don't know what it is. I have talked up this person to her to the point of her disliking him without knowing anything about him. And I don't know why you do that. That's a girl thing, it feels like, because that's what y'all do to each other. And
I pulled an MJ on him.
What do you mean?
Like how he didn't like Kobe when he, and all of these different things. He didn't like Kukoc. I did that.
But so what do you think about him so far?
I like seeing him be humanized. I find all of these quirks make him more human. Like there's no other way to say it.
It's a relief.
Yeah, and so to hear that this guy is like almost godlike status to so many people, and to be like, oh no, he has flaws and cracks, and I'm not going to knock him down off the pedestal for that, but I'm going to be like, cool.
You're not perfect and you know it.
Because none of us are, and it's the fact that he does know it, because a lot of the times it feels like...
For someone like me, I had this poster and it was in my room on my bed, so that when I woke up every morning, it was the first thing I see. And it talked about everything that he failed at.
Okay.
And then at the end of it said, I failed over and over and over and over again, but that's why I succeed. And that's my thought process too, because of him.
I'm sure it's an old proverb.
Well, I'm sure it's not just him, but that's the person that I was introduced to this type of mentality, which is every time you fuck up, every time you lose, every time you make a mistake, every time you do something that maybe you shouldn't have done. This is why I think it's funny that he still holds this against Isaiah. But every time.
Anytime I hear that guy's name from now on, I'm going to see
Right?
MJ in my head.
Exactly. But every time though, that's just a way for you to learn a lesson. Some way, somehow, that is a new way for you to learn. That's a new obstacle for you to overcome, or hurdle to jump over, or whatever it is that you want to say. That's all that is. And that's how I always take things. So like, I just did this podcast interview, Ask an Expert and all that stuff. And it was a great interview because he was like, what do you think when you look back at your first video? And it does suck. And so did every video after that. You know what I mean? Until you're like polished in what they are now. And I'm just like, I like seeing that because I'm not perfect. And I'm not a videographer. I'm not a video editor. I'm not a public speaker. I'm not a shoe expert or anything like that. I just really like this. And I have learned how to do all of these things and accidentally made a career out of it. For me to look back at that and to ignore it would be foolish, because that's where I come from in this space. What else needs to be said?
Nothing.
So thank you so much for watching. Thanks for all the support. Hope you guys enjoyed episodes 5 and 6 of The Last Dance. Is it almost over? It's not.
We have 2 more Sundays.
Oh man, it feels like it's almost over then.
Well, yeah, we've gone to the halfway and over.
I hope that this comes out on Blu-ray. I'm going to buy the box set. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for all the support. Let us know what you think about all of these topics down below in the comments section. We'd love to hear from you. So until next time, guys, have a good one. Poe, why do you keep doing this?
He heard you say Star Wars.
Crate. Crate. You know that's not your crate. Go to the crate. Good boy.